All right, my fellow friends, let's get down to the news. I have a few stories to share with you today, hopefully from really good vetted sources, because I typically don't make up the news, I just read it. In Oklahoma, I really want to get some weigh in from some of my folks out in Oklahoma and also some of my folks in the insurance industry. Maybe Greg Grobmeyer might chime in on this one. So Oklahoma signed into law the whole you don't have to charge your contracted rate if it's a non-covered service. And Oklahoma had been operating in that whole loophole where insurance companies could come in and say, oh, well, it's not covered for this patient, but we generally provide benefit for this procedure under certain circumstances. So you need to honor that rate. So I'm really happy to see that Oklahoma kind of fix that law so that hopefully the dentists of Oklahoma can get the advantage of that to be able to charge a fair fee for services that are often elective or not medically necessary in order to be able to do that for their patients. But I'm curious, does this circumvent the loophole of the federal or um, the company supported plans or self funded plans? Does the federal law still supersede this one? Or has Oklahoma finally figured out how to override all of them? So I need some feedback because I need to know, because if that's the case and Oklahoma has somehow managed to close the entire loophole and say that dentists are in full control, I would lose it. That would be a great movement in this world where we're operating between self-funded and non-self-funded and having to figure out what we can and can't charge. So I'm looking for some feedback. I would love to hear from some of my experts out in the field. We had a super sad story that came out this week. And, we typically talk about all kinds of silly things that dentists have done and poor decisions that they've made. And unfortunately, we lost one of our colleagues last week, Dr. Serena Fairfax, and she was murdered by her husband, who was a Virginia lieutenant governor. It was a murder suicide event that happened in Washington, D.C., or just outside of. And our hearts go out to her family and to the kids that are now having to live beyond this tragedy. And I don't know what got them to this point, and I don't know why they couldn't find, or why he couldn't find a better pathway forward. But certainly it sounds like we lost a fantastic colleague, and I'm genuinely sorry to report that kind of information, because I feel like there's always just a better way. There should be a better way. In other news, and this will be very, very relevant to our guest this evening, we talk about economics a lot on the pod, about the impact of dentistry and economics and all the different nuances that are happening out in our workforce. And the most recent first quarter report from HPI, the ADA's Health Policy Institute, is sort of continuing to validate a few things. Number one, dentists are continuing to feel fairly optimistic about the productivity of their practice. They feel like patients are still continuing to seek their services. They're still being able to provide the type of dentistry that they want to do. Although they may be experiencing a little bit of slowdown, they're still feeling somewhat optimistic. But on the inverse side, they are pretty consistently reporting that they're having trouble finding workforce, so hygienists and dental assistants. They're feeling the fiscal squeeze of supplies and lab costs and rising costs of just generally doing business. So we're still kind of feeling that compression of reimbursement rates are not going up. Dental services are sort of leveling off, or productivity is sort of leveling off, or not growing exponentially. We're sort of in a sweet spot. But cost of staff, cost of supplies, cost of laboratory expenses, et cetera, continue to go up. And so I think dentists are continuing to feel that squeeze. Something's going to give. And in fact, a good number of the dentists that reported to HPI reported, actually a third of them are still saying that they're actively looking for dental hygienists, and that many of them have found that filling that position is very challenging. I was with a group of dentists last weekend, and that was a fairly consistent theme as well amongst us, that in certain areas, they are having choices to choose from hygienists, and in other areas, not so much. So I think dentists in general are still feeling that fiscal squeeze. We really haven't come out of this from COVID. I don't see the runway of where this ends quite yet. Could be an interesting couple of years yet to go with dentistry, but I love seeing all these states fighting for what they believe in and fighting for the true practice of dentistry, fighting for workforce, fighting for taking care of their patients. And we're just going to have to continue to see where that takes us in the next couple of years. And with that, that's the news.